Welcome back. In the last lesson, we built what is by all accounts a terrible automation. It is so bad, in fact, that you have to manually update the input field to generate a draft email. That is the opposite of automated. So in this lesson, we're actually going to automate this workflow by retrieving our contacts, which live in Google Sheets for us automatically. And then I'm going to cover two of the most important concepts in Gumloop, which are subflows and loop mode, to fully automate this workflow so we can draft all the emails at the click of a button. Let's jump in. I'm back here in my flow, and our goal is to retrieve attendees from our conference CRM, which is a Google Sheet, retrieve their emails and draft an email for each one. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this flow, kind of tell it what it does. It says draft email. And our first step in this new flow to actually automate this, we're going to go ahead and create a new flow. You can create multiple flows within a workbook. Now, this is where we're going to retrieve our Google Sheet information. So I'm going to add a node, and I'm going to go ahead and look for Google Sheets. This would be under the integrations tab. We're going to go ahead and read rows from our Google Sheet. I'm going to just simply pick the file. Now it's reading from the sheet with my attendees. Let's run this and see what the output is. And it returns all of the rows in our sheet grouped by their column. So I have 3 companies, 3 emails, 3 names. You can imagine this as the grid in our Google Sheet. Now, email is what we're going to be working with. So my goal here is to connect this Google Sheet with this input node. I want to take the email that is in right here, and I want to connect it and update it here every time. Now, just for simplicity, just as we're getting started, I'm going to go to show more options, and I'm going to only output one row. This is going to make it so that each output is a text. Let me run that again just so we understand what's going on. Let me save. If I look at the output, I have one email, one name, and one company. So now I'm going to introduce the concept of subflows. Subflows are the fact that every flow in Gumloop can be used anywhere else. So I can actually say, take the output of this Google Sheet and connect it to draft email. How do I do that? I click plus, I go to subflows, and it'll show me my draft email, the flow we created previously. So I was not wasting your time. I was just playing a little trick on you. Now you can almost imagine subflows as nodes that are fully customizable by you. So you could imagine this is a node that takes an input and does these 4 steps. That is a node that you've built and is now accessible in your library. So what we can do here, just like any other node, we can connect the two. We can go ahead and drag email into email. That's the input. And now this is going to go ahead and execute every single node here, but replacing the output, the information here, with the input we need right here. Now, currently it's just max, which will give us the same input, give us the same output, but that's okay. It still explains the concept. Now we see there's 2 steps. It reads our Google Sheet, it reads max, and then it runs the flow. If I go view run, it brings me to that flow, and we see that it's executed every single step in our flow. So subflows are simply nodes that you built yourself that execute a certain amount of steps. They have inputs, which you specify with the input node, and they can also have outputs, which you can specify with the output node. In this case, it drafts an email, so it doesn't need an output, but we could have one for sure. So that was subflows. Super, super important and super powerful. And we're going to keep working with them throughout this course. Now, going back to our original goal, which was drafting an email for each attendee. So I'm going to go ahead and here, show more options, and remove number of rows. I'm going to come here, and let's go into draft email and see what's going on. So now, if I come here and I drag the email in, I want you to look at the top right. We see that loop mode gets turned on. Whenever you have a text input, in our case, it's the email, and you input a list, Gumloop is going to understand that you want to run this node or this subflow, the series of nodes, for each item in that list. So in our case, we want to say, take email number 1, which is Max, run the subflow, which is draft an email for Max. Take item number 2, which in our case is Mark Benioff, and go ahead and draft an email for Mark. And take item number 3, you get the point, right? So whenever you put a list into a text input, that node or subflow is going to go into loop mode and execute every item in that list. So now if I save and click run, we're going to draft 3 emails, 1 for each item in our list, 1 for each contact in our Google Sheet. And just like that, we've automated our whole flow. We have our 3 drafts ready to go. And we've done that with a subflow and loop mode working together, which is quite common in Gumloop. Now, you may say, well, it's still not automated. How can I run this automatically when a new row is created in Google Sheets? And that's what we'll cover in the next lesson. I'll see you there.